Hey everybody, this is Dan,
And this is Ron.
and this is a nominee,
Welcome.
episode 30-something, in which
35.
we do not watch the television program 30-something.
No, we did not. Do you ever watch that?
No, I had the last season, and then I sold it because I just never found any of the other seasons.
Oh, okay. I
'Cause
guess
I figured I should start at number 1, but I do want to watch it at some point because it's the same basic creative team as My So-Called Life.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, that was Winnie, what's her name, that created Winnie Holtzman or something like that. Yeah, that was the show she did after My So-Called Life got canceled after 1 year.
Oh, okay.
Another piece of trivia is that it probably could have gotten a second season, except Claire Danes was like, I want to go be a teenager.
Oh, well, can't hold that against her.
Yeah, and I mean, if the show had gone on a while, we might not have gotten Jared Leto's like emo punk career. Which was,
the Joker?
Oh, no. He had a band. He was like in an actual emo punk band. They did music videos with like the black eyeliner and the fingernail paint and the like.
I was thinking of Heath Ledger. I know Jared Leto. Yeah. Okay. Close enough.
Anyway, so today we watched what did we watch? We watched a lot of British comedy stuff that I had laying around that I had never gotten to. And
do you consider it all comedy, both of them?
I mean, Lavender Hill Mob. Well, okay, here's what we watched. We watched the Lavender Hill Mob
with Alec Guinness
by the Ealing Studio, and then we watched chronologically the first 3 remaining episodes of At Last, the 1948 show.
With Graham Chapman, John Cleese, Marty Feldman, a guy whose name I don't remember.
Eric Idle's in there somewhere. He was on the writing staff.
Oh, okay.
And the lovely Amy McDonald.
Was that her real name or just the character she played?
I'm gonna guess that was her real. I've never seen her in anything besides
this,
what we just watched.
Yeah.
I don't know if she had like huge career after. I mean, because she definitely didn't make it onto the main Monty Python show.
Right.
At least not that I can. She probably had a cameo in there somewhere, but, she wasn't in the cast or the writing staff.
Unless she played one of the women that occasionally just showed up.
Right.
And had a line.
Well, I guess, like, there's a long tradition in English acting of using men in drag to portray women.
Which they did a lot on the show, on Monty Python.
Right. Well, in Shakespeare's time, women weren't allowed to be actors.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So all the initial productions of Romeo and Juliet, it was probably like 2 teenage boys kissing each other for a lot of it.
Okay. Oh, I never thought of that.
Because they would usually take the youngest men in the acting troupe and make them play the women.
Oh, okay.
Kind of like in prison.
Wow. We're not into 2 minutes in, and you already went there.
I don't know. I watched a season worth of Oz in the last 3 days, so I'm just like.
You have that on your mind.
Prison, yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, I guess that makes sense. So Lavender Hill Mob. Should we start with that?
Yeah. Let's start with that. So, when did that come out? Where's the case for that?
I believe it was 1951.
That sounds right.
Yeah. What was the name of the director?
It says 1951. Correct.
Hey.
Directed by Charles Crichton.
Who also directed A Fish Called Wanda. Which is what the cover of the thing says. I think that's so funny. It's not A Fish Called Wanda by the director of The Lavender Hill Mob. It's The Lavender Hill Mob by the director of A Fish Called Wanda.
I mean, A Fish Called Wanda, I think, was more popular in the United States than the Ealing comedy. Because, like, the Ealing comedies, there's been U.S., like, Criterion releases of a couple of them. And clearly this got a U.S. release because that's what we just watched. But, I mean, I remember hearing a lot about A Fish Called Wanda when I was younger, and I don't remember ever hearing anything about the Ealing comedies until I was going through, like, film canon lists.
Yeah, but when that came out, it was fairly popular. When it came out, it was popular.
Yeah. That's kind of what I'm like.
No, but right, they're trying to sell the DVD to They were trying to sell the DVD today, or after
Yeah,
Fish Call
yeah.
Wanda came out, not after Lavender Hill Mob came out.
And this movie was so fucking British. This was like their idea, because I wasn't sure, because there were like one or two pretty funny parts in there, but the rest of it just kind of felt more like a deflated noir film. Right? Like it felt like Asphalt Jungle, or one of those what's his name? The guy who did Maltese Falcon.
John Huston?
Yeah, John Huston. Like he did a couple of those noir movies. Asphalt Jungle's the one that like comes to mind, where it's like mostly just sort of this series of almost business meetings about a heist. But yeah, so we're following these two guys who are definitely who are career sort of civil servants, I guess, or one guy works at the bank, and the other guy, or not civil servant. One guy works at the bank. One guy owns a metalsmithing plant,
in which he makes Eiffel Towers.
Little mini Eiffel Towers. And they decide to steal a bunch of gold bullion because Alec Guinness' character happens to be the mild-mannered guy in charge of the gold bullion.
Yeah, where they smelt it. Is smelt the right word? They melt it down. There. They melt it down in the milk bars.
Yeah. Well, and he's like the guy in charge of transferring it places, I think, right? Because otherwise, why would he have access to that van later?
And inspecting to make sure that the gold that arrived there is exactly the same weight as the gold that leaves there.
And so they meet two pretty whimsical, like kind-hearted criminals. Again, relative to the HBO series Oz. Very lighthearted. That like this is a very different look at crime than what I've been getting for the last 3 days. Yeah.
Well, this is lighthearted. It's not funny, but it's lighthearted.
Yeah, it's like whimsical. It has it's light, I would say. Yeah. And I didn't really get what was so humorous about the premise until we watched the trailer afterwards, and then I realized, like, oh, okay, this is their version of like the dorky fish out of water thing, right? Like Beverly Hills Cop, the Judge Reinhold character, where it had to be a badass kind of thing, but like British in 1951. And yeah, I mean, it was a pretty entertaining movie, but it felt kind of odd, and also the fact that it won Best Screenplay Oscar of 51.
Yeah, I didn't quite get that.
Like, granted, I don't remember a lot of what came out in 51. I think, was that when On the Waterfront came out?
I don't remember what year. Yeah, I can look it up.
Or was that 54? I can't remember, but...
Let's see, On the Waterfront with
Mr.
Marlon Brando and Elia Kazan. Right? Elia Kazan?
Yep, that's the director.
And Lee J. Cobb. And 1954. You were right the second
54, time. Okay. Yeah, 51, I can't remember what else came out. I mean, the screenplay, it was tight. It was concise. I don't feel like there was any moment in the movie that didn't need to be there. I also didn't get the sense of like the Britishness of it almost undermined what was the best part of it, which was the kind of screwball comedy, everything starts going haywire sequences. Right? I mean, like I feel like the chase stuff, like whenever there's a chase sequence, the energy in the film just like shoots up.
Yeah, although there were kind of funny chase sequences when we saw the cops taking off from I guess from the station. You see a cop car pulling out with the sirens, and then you see another the cops getting in the car and a cop car pulling out, and the same thing 4 times, and it looks like it's the same scene just repeated 4 times,
which it might be.
Yeah, and I don't know, I was laughing, but I don't think I was supposed to. I think it was supposed to be 4 separate cars, just with one based on one shot.
I mean,
okay, but you're not saying funny, laughing. You're just saying the energy went up.
Yeah. It feels like, okay, we're getting closer to that like laugh out loud stuff whenever there's a chase sequence, and it starts to get like really absurd. Because I think the film, and in 1951, it was probably a lot safer to bank on this than it is to bank on it in 2020, but like banking on the entire, like the idea of Alec Guinness with glasses being a criminal is not absurd enough to push things out into the kind of outer realm of stuff in 2020.
Right, but do you think it did at the time?
I mean, I'm gonna guess so. If it won Best Screenplay Oscar, and like
Oh,
I
that
mean, this
screenplay.
shows up in a time, or what was it? It's on the DVD.
Although that screenplay, that's not about Alec Guinness's acting.
Yeah, I mean, it shows up on a lot of film canon lists.
Yeah,
if
I've
you
heard
go
of this.
through like top 200 British movie lists, this always shows up.
Yeah, I've definitely heard of it before, a lot. I just never knew what it was about.
Me either.
Except it's a mob.
Yeah.
And that, I guess I knew it was, or I thought it was a comedy. I thought it was more of a comedy. Well, I guess that goes back to the question: is did people think it was hilarious when it came out?
Right, or was it one of those things where it just had an agreeable tone and like it moved fast enough and there wasn't a lot of fat?
Entertainment Weekly is quoted as saying, one of the greatest comedies ever made. It's referred to on the cover as the Oscar-winning comedy classic. Delightful performances.
I mean, I'm guessing like an old British person, if we were having this conversation, it would be like when I showed Liz Psycho and she was like, that was supposed to be scary, right? Like maybe...
Yeah, okay. I talked to someone not too long ago who said that she she couldn't take showers for a long time after watching Psycho.
Yeah, it's so, like, Psycho, it runs very hot or cold with people, I've found, when I've, like, watched Psycho with people that haven't seen it before. I mean, I remember the first time I saw Psycho, I wasn't that crazy about it. I didn't really understand what was important in that movie until I was older.
But what horror movies did you watch beforehand?
Shit, when did I see Psycho? I saw Psycho in a high school class when I was 17.
So you must have seen horror before then.
I'd seen some horror. I never really liked horror, it wasn't that I didn't like horror, it's that my experience of horror, I didn't find it scary ever. Like, sometimes you get, like, the jump scare kind of thing. Like, I saw Land of the Dead and, like, the Day of the Dead remake when those came out, because I was friends with and still am friends with a guy who's he's not a zombie nut quite as much as he used to be, but he was huge into the zombie stuff, so I saw a lot of zombie movies. I saw
Day the Clown Cried.
Nope, we still haven't.
Oh, I'm sorry, wrong genre. I just got confused because the whole day thing.
Right. George Romero's The Day the Clown Cried. It's like, for some reason, like, Auschwitz is in a mall now.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Schindler's shopping lists. It says Entertainment Weekly. The mashup you never knew you needed. It says Variety.
Right, not just you never knew existed, but you never knew you needed.
Right, like how... You'll watch this and you'll think, like, how did I breathe oxygen and digest food before I saw this movie? But no, so I saw, like, Poltergeist, and I, like, laughed really loudly through it because I just thought it was hilarious when I watched it. And, I mean, that did not make me very popular with the other people watching the movie with me. Maybe if I watched it now, it would be more scary, but I still just remember it. The whole thing felt like a goofy face competition, right? Like, Scanners kind of feels like that too, right? Like, if you're taking it at face value, it's like, oh, this is really scary. If you're just thinking about, like, oh, okay, what did the actor do to get in this state? And they probably just made a lot of goofy faces in the mirror, right? Like, half of the movie Scanners is just people that
Dan is making some very grotesque faces right now.
You might like face wiggle. That's a film genre.
If the face wiggle genre?
The face wiggle is like a huge... The Exorcist is a face wiggle movie. Poltergeist is a face wiggle movie. Scanners is a face wiggle.
That's right. When Netflix makes recommendations, it says, here are comedies, here are action films, here are face wiggle movies, here are butt jingling movies, and so on. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the butt jiggling movies, that's a whole huge genre.
Yeah. That's a subgenre. Yeah.
With two, like, very round hemispheres.
So, Lavender Hill Mob.
Mob, yeah. So, like, how do you feel about this?
I enjoyed it. It wasn't laugh out loud funny. I expected a straight up comedy. Or not, a more pro-rearist comedy. How's that? Or I've seen. Let's see, what were the other ones that we were talking about some movies earlier?
Yeah, we were talking about Ealing Studio comedies from. Well, I don't know if the Ealing Studio was around. I don't know much about the actual history of the Ealing Studio, but the only movies I ever hear about that were produced by them predominantly came out in the 50s to like very early 60s. So I'm gonna guess that was most of when they were around, and they were probably folded into something else or something. But
what were we talking?
Kind Hearts and Coronets, which I don't remember being super funny. I remember it being like a very interesting movie, but I don't remember it being super.
It was amusing.
Funny.
It was amusing.
Yeah, it's like very wry.
Yeah, and the lady
man in the white suit.
The man in the white suit
is hilarious, like in many places, in a way that I don't think the other two.
What's it about?
So this guy in a lab creates the ultimate, like it looks like a lab jacket, but it's apparently made out of this like super fiber that you don't need to clean, is impervious to, like it can, deflect bullets. It can do like anything, and somehow, oh god, it's been so long since I saw the movie,
but this one is a straight up comedy, or let me rephrase it. What we recognize now, what we would as a straight up comedy.
I mean, it's close to like a U.S. screwball comedy, which like this comes close. Like imagine the end of Lavender Hill Mob, where they're chasing after like the little girls to get back the gold Eiffel Towers, and imagine that's most of the movie is like that kind of tone.
Okay.
Lots more physical stuff, and I think also just a more interesting subject matter, because it does manage, Man in the White Suit, that is, manages to make some interesting points about the technology race with the Cold War, and just sort of, the rapid advancement of technology and the attitudes surrounding it after the Second World War.
Okay.
Whereas I feel like Lavender Hill Mob, it's just like a very low star-powered Ocean's movie with some gags, basically. Movie. Yeah, this is like totally a heist movie.
It's a heist movie where he collects people, gets people together to perform the heist, each with their own role. But in this case, we get 4 instead of 11. We're 7 short.
Yeah, if you ever like wanted a charmingly subdued and stereotypically British heist, this is that heist.
Yeah. So wait, did we actually describe the whole movie?
No, I don't. We
just talked about the characters? Yeah.
Okay, you want to?
So there's the guy that works at the who monitors the gold melting. There's the guy who manages production of knickknacks, including toy metal Eiffel Towers. And they decide to steal the gold and they need to take it over to a different country because of it, and they can't just take it out in the form of unmelted gold or as the gold bars. So they make gold Eiffel Towers and send them to Paris, and then go pick it up there.
And they send it to a knick-knack shop next to the Eiffel Tower, and the lady working there accidentally sells 6 of them to some girls on a field trip.
Yeah. So then the 2 guys they find the school where the field trip was, and they buy back the Eiffel Towers from 5 of the little.
And then she just happens to give it away as a gift to like the secretary of the guy investigating the gold heist.
And then
they figure out something was amiss.
Right. Because at one point, so they've got their 2 accomplices. They sort of recruited. And part of what the 2 accomplices do is they tie up and they bind and gag the guy who monitors the gold to make it seem like he was kidnapped.
And he has to like tell them to do that. And there's a pretty funny scene of like Alec Guinness beating himself up with a blindfold on, basically.
Yeah, jumping around, trying to get around.
It's like rolling around on the ground. He like rips his shirt with a hook.
So I could see people laughing at that at the
Yeah.
time, but it did stand out a little bit. Although actually, maybe that's the point where it starts to get a little more. It goes from beyond being whimsical to being amusing.
Yeah, that felt more like a traditional comedy sequence.
Yeah.
Like there's a setup and there's a payoff in the form of a gag.
Yeah. And I guess if you think of the movie as a whole on that level, the first 45 minutes is the setup.
There's some like wry reversals, right? Because when they rob the place, he gets renowned as like the hero
Yeah.
of the robbery, and that probably would have been
People would have been cracking up on with that at that.
Yeah, people would have like fucking raffled. Like raffled the fuck out.
That's where the term comes from the Lavender Hill Mob. Little known fact.
Although to be fair, like a comedy doesn't. I almost feel like comedy it tells you more about the attitudes of a period than drama tends to, because of its ephemeral nature. But it also doesn't tend to stay like laugh out loud funny as easily as say like a drama. Although I don't know, dramas it can age pretty badly. Like all those D.W. Griffith like Broken Blossoms. I mean, Broken Blossoms is an okay movie. Intolerance is, like, not a good movie. But anyway, those were considered, like, the gold standards of that period. They look very hokey.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of a little racist now.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Just got to put that D.W. Griffith disclaimer in there if you somehow found our podcast and don't know who D.W. Griffith is.
D.W. Griffith, racist.
Yeah.
Also, filmmaker.
Yes. Producer of and director of what was probably the first feature-length film released in the United States.
Really?
If I remember, yeah, I can't think of anything that was like you have two real or comedy kind of things. There's some like very short, but you don't have. I can't think of a movie over an hour from before 1915, so I'm gonna guess that's the first one.
What movie was it?
Birth of a Nation.
Oh, that was
with
the
first.
first.
Like, KKK
Okay, yeah.
sequences.
Yeah. D.W. Griffith was personally responsible for the rise of the KKK, or the re-rise.
Right, because they were like basically a dead organization at that. Like the 19th century was mostly just like pissed off landowners in the South, and it was like much more clear cut. I mean, I guess because the Civil War was still like a fresh thing and people understood the economic motivations of the different factions during that period. But yeah, it was mostly just like rich Southern guys that were pissed off that they didn't have free labor anymore going around.
Right.
And it was predominantly rich. Like the whole rebranding of white supremacy as like a poor white people thing over the last 30 years was kind of like brilliant. Bait and switch propaganda. Because historically that's not really how it's worked.
Yeah. Then so the KKK was moribund, and then Birth of a Nation came out, and suddenly, boom, KKK is back on the scene.
Right, and it was. Let
me say that a little more sensitively. And then the KKK was back on the scene.
It was a huge hit movie. It was like the first blockbuster movie. Woodrow Wilson literally told people to go see it.
Wow.
And I have to say, though, like everything, because I have watched that movie all the way through.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, because you got to do the film history thing.
And wow.
And it's so fucking boring for like 2 hours. Like, Jesus Christ. Like,
whereas at the time people were excited by it and it was thrilling.
Well, I guess it was like if you went to the movie theater in 1915, there's a good chance that like you knew a decent number of people who'd lived through the Civil War. So it was like, I mean, apparently the like period recreation detail in it is, you know, like in terms of the architecture and the clothing and everything is relatively accurate. So if you're like into that, I guess, but like it's so slow. It's just like shot, reverse shot, reverse shot. We're standing in a, you know, the South is being reconstructed.
Oh no.
At its own very slow speed.
So Lavender Hill Mob was a very different movie.
Very, very different movie. Yeah. Although it still had that thing of like the tone of the humor was much more suited to that time, and I think like that's a way that like generations and I was gonna say groups of people that live in the same time, but that's what the generation is, right?
Well, although you've got different groups, but yeah.
Right, like part of how you define being the next generation is like figuring out what wasn't funny about your parents or whoever was there before that you kind of have to like take out in this Freudian fashion.
So somebody, let's say somebody who is 50 now.
Like there's a lot of symbolic kill your parents stuff in making comedy.
So somebody who's 50 now and their 45-year-old parents. No, wait, am I doing? Yeah, okay, let's say, and their 45-year-old parents. Their 45-year-old parents think something is funny. The 15-year-olds think like, oh God, I can't believe you think that's funny. They think something else is funny. The 45-year-old thinks, what's so funny about that? When that 15-year-old becomes 45, what do they think is funny? Would they think that other 45-year-old was funny? Do the kids
so
think...
you're saying like, is it more about cumulative life experience, or is it about just sort of the aesthetics of culture shifting in some form?
Yeah. Which one is this? Mine's more concrete.
I mean, I think if we were just talking about most of the population, yours is probably more accurate and prevalent. I think in terms of professional production of like big movies, this would have been a big movie.
Yeah,
especially by British standards, this would have been huge. 1951, because like the British film industry was not particularly like England didn't really get into the movie thing that heavily until the 40s.
Okay.
At the earliest that I can, like the earliest British movie I can even think of is 41 Fires Were Started.
That's a long history of movies. I mean, in the short history of movies, that's a long time.
Oh yeah, but compared to like the first French movie I can think of is 1903.
The moon one.
I think Méliès might have made one or two movies before the Moon movie, but yeah, the Méliès shorts.
Uh-huh. What's it called? Voyage to the Moon? Shot in the Moon? La Lumière something.
Well, it's in French, yeah.
Yeah.
A Voyage to the Moon is what it's usually
that's
translated, or a trip to the moon.
But yeah, okay. So maybe part of it is the aesthetics of the period. I don't know. I mean, this movie could not be made today as is. You'd have to redo it, and if you'd have to redo it how many years later and turn it into Ocean's 11, and then you'd have to take Ocean's 11 and redo it. You couldn't just shoot Ocean's 11 shot for shot, the original version. When did that come out?
Oh, the Sinatra one?
Yeah.
Oh shit, when did that come out?
We're talking 60s,
I've never
right?
seen that. Yeah,
Okay.
I mean 60s at the I can't think of any movies Sinatra was in after like 1970.
Yeah.
75.
But so then you couldn't just you couldn't make that exactly as that was and release that in, what was it, early 2000s that the remake came out?
No, yeah, you need to update it, revamp it.
Yeah, the screenplay's different, the actors cast in the roles are different, the whole mood is different. Same story.
Yeah, and
a
see,
lot
like
of the
the
same
alternate version I wanted to see was the one where it had the entire Rat Pack, including Jerry Lewis in the movie. We're never gonna get to see that. But,
hey, lady, you want to steal some money?
hey, lady. Well, I feel like he'd be good as the distraction, right? Like he keeps like bothering the guy at the casino that's supposed to be paying attention or something.
He keeps bumping into him just as he's trying to roll the dice.
Yeah, he like brings 2 giant glass jars full of jelly beans for whatever reason into the casino, and he's like trying to give them away one at a time to kids without like putting them down on a table.
Then he pours them all into the roulette wheel.
Yeah, Lavender Hill. It was. I guess there were some similarities to some other story. I mean, the employee decides like, I need to make this one last heist to be rich because I'm sick of my kind of complacent middle class existence.
Because up to then,
that's
very...
a trope. Like that shows up in the first one I'm thinking of is definitely not the most famous example, but the Post Office Girl by Stefan Zweig, the novel. I mean, in a certain way, you could almost think of Shawshank Redemption as being like that, except
Whimsical and wry.
Well, not whimsical and wry so much. I mean, it's pretty, in terms of prison movies, I would say Shawshank Redemption's pretty tame.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Wait, so wait, how did we get onto Shawshank Redemption?
Well, just sort of like the old men try to. No, I guess that's kind of a stretch. Yeah, Shawshank Redemption's not quite the same thing.
Plus, Shawshank Redemption takes place in prison.
That's true. Which the sequel to Lavender Hill Mob probably would have taken place in prison.
When they do their second heist and they try to do the exact same thing.
Yeah, when they go all like Weekend at Bernie's on Alec Guinness, like whenever the rule of law finally breaks down, and everybody's just doing anything, we'll get to see that. See like 3D hologram Alec Guinness in something that, I mean, I'm imagining the sequel to this would probably look like Jim Jarmusch's Down by Law, like three or four people driving each other crazy in a jail cell for an hour and a half.
So it's funny seeing this. I can't say quite comedy, but seeing Alec Guinness in a comedic role. At least if it's one of the greatest comedies ever made.
I mean, it's a comedy in the sense of like. Well, no, is it I mean, 'cause it doesn't. Nobody gets married at the end. I mean, if we're going with just like classical, like you're in an English course and they're trying to give you the broadest possible definition of what is a comedy.
But it's funny to see Alec Guinness in this role.
Oh yeah, and he's great. Yeah, he's
yeah. Well, because when I think of Alec Guinness, I think of I think of dramatic performances. I think of Dr. Zhivago, Lawrence of Arabia, Star Wars.
And his body language in this, like, I could see stuff that Peter Sellers took directly from
Totally.
him in this movie. Woody Allen, like, a lot of how he carries himself in this movie physically reminds me a lot of, like, how Woody Allen would stylize himself physically to go into the movie character, whatever.
Well, even the picture on the cover, not on the main cover, on the back, the face that he makes reminds me a little bit of Peter Sellers in Dr. Strangelove, as Dr. Strangelove, but without the hair. Or with the hair slightly different, but close to.
Yeah, like his whole look in this movie.
This could have been the Peter Sellers character.
This kind of sets up the visual language of like movie nerd for a while, I feel, or at least I can't think of an earlier example of like the movie nerd.
Oh, okay. I guess I could see in that respect Woody Allen.
Yeah, like the way that, I mean, maybe he just like moves like that naturally, but Alec Guinness, I don't know, just like the way he carried himself just reminded me a lot of like the early Woody Allen movies. But
famous nerds in Hollywood history. Who else do we have?
I mean, like in the early, I mean, if we're just going famous nerds, hundreds. We could go with like Tina Fey.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right.
There's one. Oh god, there's like got to be others, but
I'm trying to cast Tina Fey in this role. Can you see her doing this?
Actually, yeah, that would be her and Amy Poehler in the leads.
Oh yes, okay, right.
Wait,
they meet each other.
Yeah, we should pitch this because I think I would totally pay to see like a Tina Fey, Amy Poehler, Lavender Hill Mob.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We've got our $1 million film idea. Well, multi hundreds of millions film idea.
Right, like maybe they could smelt them into best screenwriting Oscars in this version.
Ooh, okay. So this is the meta movie.
They have to go to the Academy Awards ceremony and chase down all the youngest nominees who got the identical Oscars. Screenwriting Oscars for some reason.
Oh no! What it is? It's several of the Oscar statuettes. The one that they can't get back is the screenwriting one. So they have to chase the screenwriter down the street.
Right, and then that takes on the Freudian tone of like the movie chasing the prior movie.
Mm.
Kind of like the J.J. Abrams Star Wars about the anxiety of making a Star Wars.
Mm.
But okay, so we should also talk about what else we watched, because we watched. I think we actually ended up watching more of the John Cleese show than we watched of the feature length movie.
Yeah, we actually only we meant to watch one episode, and we watched a whole bunch of them.
Yeah, and that show was hilarious.
Yeah.
That was like, there were some really good, and there were even some really strange. I mean, I guess it's from '67. It's like weird to think of it as being on in '67 just because of it being in black and white and in kind of kinescope condition.
Right, that stuff should all be in color.
Yeah,
especially by
like,
'67.
Yeah, depending on how. I mean, it could have been broadcast in color, because like if that was on in '67, that would have been on same station at some other point in the day as The Prisoner, and we know The Prisoner's in color.
Right. The color's important in that.
Granted, The Prisoner is also like way more budgeted than this was. That sure looked like, but.
And Monty Python must have started shortly after this. When did Monty Python start?
I think the first episodes of Monty Python, it's like '69, so within 2 years, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So color was available.
Yeah.
Unless I was right on the switch over.
But I mean, it could have been a budget thing, because Britain doesn't have as much money to put into TV productions as the U.S., because they don't. I mean, they do export a decent amount of TV, but.
Yeah. But these would definitely fit right in as Monty Python sketches. Or
a
lot of them would.
The name of the show is a reference to BBC cheaping out on content.
Oh, how so?
Well, the idea is that, like, oh, we're finally, and like you noticed with the episodes, they kept making these references to, like, this is our 300th episode. Well, this is the final episode. Like, remember the end of the very first episode we watched, he's saying, well, that's my final appearance in this series of episodes, but it's the pilot.
Oh.
And so the idea is that the
Right.
BBC had just like put this in a vault for 20 years and then was just using it to burn off time in the summer or something.
Right, I forgot about that. It was the Amy McDonald thanking all the people who helped her with the Amy McDonald show, whatever it was called. And most important of all,
contribute to the Make the Lovely Amy McDonald Rich Fund.
oh right. She tried to do a telethon.
£23,000. You can send them to me, the lovely Amy McDonald.
Yeah, she constantly refers to herself as by first name, and that's the main thing she does. Well, actually, we never see her in almost any of the skits. She's the interstitial between the skits. Well, kind of like the interstitial, or what do you call that?
She's almost like the announcer or something, but she doesn't.
Oh yeah, she has to do that in some cases. They don't integrate it
into the rest of it, because she's not talking about the other sketches. She just sort of. They beat this like one character joke that she's kind of vain and ditzy into the ground. Over and over and over. Right. She's the what do we call it? She's the Goldie Hawn character from Laugh-In. You know, she looked like her. It kind of reminded me. It was like the Mr. Know-It-All segments in Rocky and Bullwinkle. Right? They cut really quickly. He's in front of a curtain, kind of like her. The whole joke is that he's. Bullwinkle clearly does not know all. Right. But it's a short little brief interlude. Yeah, I kind of wonder if that was on some, because like Bracky and Bullwinkle would have been like on and done by the time this existed. Not that like you would need to watch Rocky and Bullwinkle to get the idea of putting somebody in front of a curtain, because that was incredibly common in like variety shows. Yeah. Like the Here's Edie with Edie Adams, or whenever they would have the musical performances on Playboy After Dark, or any of those things. But so from the several episodes that we saw, and all the few dozen sketches in there, there's only one sketch. There was only one sketch of the main sketches that she appeared in. Yeah, it almost feels like the early seasons of Kids in the Hall, where like Scott Thompson is always, oh geez, what's the name of that, the like very flamboyant bartender character that he does, who
Vaguely remember.
Yeah, and he like gives the monologues, but we don't get to see Scott Thompson do a whole time. I mean, I think like the interest in monologues, I don't know, or what am I trying to say? Parts of this did remind me of Kids in the Hall a bit. Like you can definitely see the eventual influence on Kids in the Hall. I mean, granted, like Monty Python, to see that influence everywhere on like sketch stuff, but
I wonder if any of them had seen these. Who has seen these? Because these were they lost, or they're just what's the status of these of this show?
The status of this show, so there's like two precursors to Monty Python. With halves of the cast, they put all the existing episodes of both of them out on DVDs. Probably, I'm gonna guess this came out 20. Okay, yeah, this is a 15-year-old DVD, so this came out when I was in college. I'm not sure how many episodes were ever produced of It Lasts, the 1948 show. I think it was like 13 or 14, but there's only 5 now because they all got wiped when the BBC wiped all the Doctor Who episodes. And
why did they wipe them all?
Because broadcast videotape was absurdly expensive, and there was no home video market to re-release things, so TV was just kind of seen as being inherently ephemeral.
So how did these survive?
These probably, I'm going to guess that the first one we watched, the video quality looked substantially better than the other two, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's because it was the pilot. So that was shot on film before it would have been broadcast. So the film elements might have survived, because film is a lot, at least in 1967, film, it's much more tempting to keep a reel of film than a broadcast tape, because you're not saving any, like you can't reuse the film. Whereas the tape, you can just keep taping back over it over and over again until the tape disintegrates.
Film is single use.
Yeah, so I'm guessing the first episode we watched was probably something from the BBC vault when they commissioned it, or it was something that was sent abroad for syndication purposes on a 16mm film print.
Oh, okay.
The other two, that's the only way, give or take, that they found any of the lost Doctor Who episodes. So that's usually where that stuff ends up being. The other two were probably filmed directly off of a television as they were broadcast, and that is why you get that like video haziness mixed with the little like intermittent black dots suggesting that somebody got hair on a piece of film. I mean, that's how like a lot of TV from that period survived. But yeah, so we were watching this. I don't know if this would have been the one sketch where the four guys are talking about like, my childhood was worse than your childhood, blah blah blah. That must, or wait, no, because Monty Python would perform that live, and it's in the Live at the Hollywood Bowl.
So they continued that on.
That sketch got reused. Everything else here, I'm gonna guess, like unless you were at the Museum of TV and Radio, you didn't see it until 2005.
Yeah. There was one new sketch, which looked like I can't remember if John Cleese actually pretended to do the news, or there was just that bit and now something completely different where he would just show up. It looked like the same setup, but there was a whole drawn out thing with the news in this case. I'm just wondering if it was if it was a not repeated.
Well, it's kind of interesting how much it feels like Monty Python already, even though you don't have half the cast. Like the sense of humor is completely there. The emphasis on repeating random words until they take on a kind of a comedic effect that's already being used a lot. There was that sketch where they're telling you how to do this wild new dance called the Mercantile Accountant or something.
The Chartered Accountant.
Chartered Accountant, yeah, they're like obsessed with the phrase Chartered Accountant. I think it shows up like 8 times.
Yeah. There's another sketch in which there's 4 people there. I'm a chartered accountant, blah blah blah, and I'm a chartered accountant. I'm a chartered accountant too, blah blah blah, and I'm a gorilla. And that sets up the premise for the rest of the sketch, even though he's clearly a chartered accountant. But yeah. So they use chartered accountant a lot.
Yeah, and they have like I guess it's not. There's like there's one sketch where they're doing something really inventive with the camera, but there's not, because Terry Gilliam worked for the other show, Do Not Adjust Your Set. So there's like animations by him in there and everything, and I feel like a lot of the distinctive visual sense of Monty Python was probably Terry Gilliam versus the other guys, because like he was the guy who had the like hands-on experience with movie directing and everything.
Okay. Wait, even at that point?
Well, yeah, he was the guy making all the animations.
Oh.
Yeah,
Okay,
like
okay.
He was
I thought you were
the
talking
guy
about
like
feature-length films, and so that didn't come till later.
I mean, the other guys maybe, but like Gilliam's the one where I know if he walked into an editing room, he would know what everything was and what he was doing.
Yeah, definitely. All right, yeah, we'll have to watch the other show at some point.
Yeah, we'll have to check it out, because visually this is a lot more basic than Monty Python, right? Like most of the sketches, if there's two people, we're seeing them in a medium shot, so you don't have to change the camera positions as much a lot of the time. Or like, there's a lot of sketches. I mean, they reuse like the one like John Cleese in a suit at just a completely nondescript desk at least 3 or 4 times in different contexts, like not as a
and the men are always
callback
wearing
to
suits.
character. Yeah. Which is interesting. I want to learn more about this. What's her face? God, I just said it like 5 times.
Amy McDonald?
Amy McDonald, yes.
Is that her real name?
According to the front of the DVD box.
Okay. No, I mean it lists her when it lists.
Yeah, it lists her on the credits on the bottom.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not Julie Reese as Amy McDonald.
Right.
Is there Julie Reese?
And this was produced by David Frost of Richard Nixon interview fame.
Yeah.
Weirdly.
I mean, a lot of interviewing. He was a interviewer.
Yeah.
What's a better word? Was it a talk show host, right?
Right. Right. I guess Frost Nixon, that's the only film adaptation of a talk show episode, right? That I can think of.
Have you seen it?
No.
By the way. Oh, it's pretty good.
It's pretty good?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It's based on the play, I think, right?
Well, I mean, it's based on his
Well,
talk
it's based
show,
on real.
right?
Yeah. But I mean, I thought there was a play, so
maybe, yeah.
Yeah. That was funny that he produced, but yeah, he was in TV. Just eventually he made it to that particular role. That happens a lot, or in the other direction, of the people become producers of whatever.
I'm kind of curious, like what the relationship between this and Laugh-In was. Like, I kind of want to go dig up my Laugh-In DVDs and see what the dates are. Because, yeah, like the whole Amy McDonald thing seems a little bit like Laugh-In. The sketches don't seem like they don't cut as rapidly. There's no like kind of snappy answers to stupid questions section of the show.
Yeah.
Which is much to the advantage of At Last, the 1948 show, because that was like, I feel like out of all the stuff on Laugh-In, the like, hey, let's have the cast like wander around and they stop every 2 seconds and tell a lame joke thing for 10 minutes. That aged the worst out of everything on Laugh-In well, I don't know. I mean, seeing like wacky costumes, Laugh-In, like there's not a lot of it that's still super funny. It's mostly just sort of a vibe.
Yeah.
I feel like when I watch it, but
there was I saw something like it was the anniversary of Laugh-In. I don't know, 40th, 50th. Could it be? No, it can't possibly be 50th. Let's see.
Sure could, yeah.
Oh my God, yeah.
68, yeah, 68 would be 52 now.
Yeah. All right. Okay, I guess it was the 50th anniversary. It was some special. You can find it on probably on Netflix. And they recreated some or created new versions of some of those like the Laugh-In party scene or a party sketch where they would have everybody at a dance party.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Yeah,
Right. Yeah. And it's all a dance party, and it's everybody stops dancing and it focuses on one person. So they did that.
Hi, I'm Goldie Hawn and I'm blonde. Hi, I'm Rowan and I'm Martin.
Yeah.
Here's a joke.
So they did that, but with current comedians, a mixture of current comedians and Ruth Buzzy. Wait, let's see, who came out of that? So Goldie Hawn, Ruth Buzzy, who's one ringy dingy, two dingy dingy, Frankie, what's the name of the comedian? The one in Frankie, not Frankie and Johnny. Okay, who's Ted Turner's wife?
Jane Fonda.
Okay, so who's in a show on cable with Jane Fonda, in which they're two older women, their husbands?
Let's see, Lily Tomlin.
Lily Tomlin, thank you.
I'm cheating because I'm just reading the back of the DVD box, but
Oh no, that's fine. That's fine. So I'm thinking of Lily Tomlin. So
Lily
Buzzy,
Tomlin, Goldie Hawn, Henry Gibson, Gary Owens, Alan Suze, Ruth Buzzy, Joanne Worley, Ernie Johnson. Man, that dropped off quick.
Yeah. So were these people famous before Laugh-In, or
No.
they kind of came together? Some of them.
I mean, Lily Tomlin, like, she wouldn't have been old enough to have been famous for something else
beforehand. Yeah.
And I mean, Goldie Hawn for sure. That was her first thing.
Wow. In that case, look at how many people their career started from there. I mean, some of them went on to do quite a bit afterwards, and then some of them were remembered as Ruth Buzzy.
Yeah, Ruth Buzzy is just like, oh wait, I love this. Check out this DVD packaging for the Laugh-In.
Let's see. Can you describe it? I'm not sure how to describe it.
Well, okay. So it's like psychedelic pattern imagery. For those of you who have watched Laugh-In at some point, meaning you're either close to death or a dork like me.
I used to watch it on, what was it, Nick at Night or something like that?
They used to show that at Nick at Night?
I know, I'm trying to remember, or the Comedy Central, or I forget where I used to watch it, but I watched a lot of it.
Oh, okay. I didn't know they did reruns.
So, yeah,
okay.
No, I'm talking about like 15 years ago.
I've only ever seen it on like re-release DVDs, but there's a scene in the beginning where they'll have the character, the actors in like different goofy outfits. They'll say the dance party sequence basically, but they'll be in this like weird psychedelic porthole thing. And they've recreated that on the inside of the DVD box.
Oh, cool.
So, like, see, it's all like doors they open.
And so you can open them like, what is it for Advent? An Advent calendar? When when you open up every day, another day, and there's a chocolate behind. Like so here. Pop-up book. Yeah. There's
Richard Nixon.
Sock it to me. Yeah. Laugh-In used to be on Nick at Night.
Huh.
Yeah.
When?
Let's see. I just found Nick at Night 1989 commercial during Laugh-In.
Huh.
Nick at Night promos 1988 Laugh-In.
Oh, 88, 89. Okay.
Yeah,
because I remember by the time I got to TV.
Oh, here's one at 97.
Oh, 97,
so,
huh?
Yeah.
Weird.
So it was on for a long time.
We watched a lot of Nick at Night. I guess we only ever watched Happy Days, and I think I watched I Dream of Jeannie sometimes. And Nick at Night, they used to play the 60s Batman show sometimes. I do remember that.
Oh.
Like, infrequently, but sometimes.
I think, I'm trying to remember when discovering the Donna Reed show on Nick at Night.
Oh, I discovered that at the Museum of TV and Radio. I didn't know that existed.
Oh, really?
I didn't know that they reran that either.
You know the guy that
because that's like that's the last place that Buster Keaton ever appeared before he died.
Really?
Yeah, it was a guest appearance on the Donna Reed show.
Oh, neat. Oh, that's really neat. But what was the name of the kid, the teenage son in that? It was like Jeff Green or something like that. Well, I remember
maybe that's the manager on Curb Your Enthusiasm, is it? That's like Larry David's manager.
Jeff Green. Oh, maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah. But whatever his name is, I think the character's name. Well, I guess that would have been Jeff Reed.
I mean, Jeffrey Green's a pretty generic. I wouldn't be surprised if two people came to Jeffrey Green by
right. Gonna look that up too.
Different paths.
But you know Jeff Gillooly of what's his name? Tanya Harding fame. He changed his name legally. But you have to go before a judge to change your name.
To Ruth Buzzy.
Yeah. To whatever the name that the actor. Oops. Here I'm looking up the Donna Stone. Because the Donna Reed show, the family name
right, it's
Stone.
the Stone family, right?
Yeah, so he wanted to change it to Jeff Stone, and the guy that played him, Paul Peterson, I guess, went to give a case against him changing it to that name, something like that. And I have to go back. Wow, that's we haven't done an errata in a very long time, but there's a beautiful example of an errata.
Sure.
Yeah. But yeah, I understand. You Gillooly is now as a pretty distinct name. So you want to get rid of it so people won't look at you the same way. If your name was Jack
Daniel
Reeves,
Levine.
If your name was Daniel Levine,
You're
And-
basically anonymous already.
Yeah. It just means Jewish guy.
Right, like my name is the equivalent of like a wig and sunglasses. You get like 10 million Google results.
Yeah. It's not quite John Smith.
But it's like it's getting there. It's
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, it's not quite John Smith, but like if Trader Joe's ever started selling like matzo balls or something, like they're like Trader Giotto for the Jews, could very well be, you know.
Trader
Giotto?
Daniel.
Daniel Levine. Yeah, you've never seen that on
No.
all the Italian food at Trader Joe's. It's labeled
oh.
Trader Giotto.
Yeah. Okay. I thought you were doing that as a Jewish somehow, and I was trying to figure out how that works.
No,
Right.
I'm just saying, like,
Trader Dan Levine. Got it. Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I mean, they probably wouldn't. They probably like Trader Goldstein.
Trader Joe Goldstein.
Yeah,
Well, that's why. Yeah. All right.
Trader Joseph of the Israelites.
So, Trader Joseph.
His amazing
all you need to say.
Technicolor sorbet dessert.
Yeah. Who has a what?
His amazing Technicolor sorbet dessert. Aisle 3.
So Lavender Hill Mob, pre Monty Python sketch show.
Last the 1948 show.
Yeah.
Coming to you in a very timely fashion, very timely time of 2020.
So
the year of hindsight, which is why we've been looking at exclusively old crap for the last year, right?
Yeah. We only want stuff in which we already know the answer to.
With your support, this could be a decade of hindsight.
Oh.
And movies keep getting old every year, so we could keep doing this indefinitely.
Right, if we generally try to keep the movies that are 10 years old, or except for one, Marriage Story.
Right, now it's because like Liz had to watch it for another podcast, and we're
gonna
live
watch
together
anyways.
and share a television, yeah.
I mean,
I don't know if I was ever going to watch that if that like hadn't been the case. I just like looked at that, I was like, it's no Baumbach.
Yeah,
people getting divorced, white people getting divorced. Like, I lived through that. I don't need to pay Netflix to go through that again.
I've been through that. I've done it.
Well, except when Ron did it, he was actually divorcing Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah.
Few
people know about me and my role as Scarlett Johansson's first husband.
Yeah, him and ScarJo.
Yeah, Scarro. Rojo. Yeah, so people forget about the Rojo period. Less known, ScarJo, the early days was together. Yeah, we were together, Rojo.
So then the Ryan Reynolds relationship was Ryjo.
That was Ryjo. Yeah, she went from Rojo to Ryjo.
So if she ever like decided that she was fluid and dated Alicia Cuthbert.
Who's that?
Shit, what was she in? Wait, no, I'm confused. Wait, no, that joke doesn't work. Somehow I was
Any of
trying.
these?
I was trying to make their name into Cujo.
Okay.
And I was
Lisa Kudrow.
yeah.
Are we back? We're back.
So we have a guest on with us. You can hear her chewing in the background.
Elizabeth, the podcast.
We're going to name this episode Portrait of a Lady Chewing on Twizzlers.
Because Elizabeth just came back from watching a different movie, Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Did I get it right?
Yes.
Yay!
And she's currently eating Twizzlers.
Yeah. Twizzlers. $75 Twizzlers.
And I'm going to make a movie that attempts to scoop up both markets under both opposing movies' feet, called Portrait of a Twizzler on Fire, starring my microwave. So should get like a pretty good turnaround based on like low projected budgets.
So should we wrap this up? What do you think, Elizabeth? Should we wrap this up?
Yeah.
We're done?
You're done.
All right, Elizabeth says we're done.
She's here to stick a fork in it, folks.
Yeah.
Also, the microphone said they were they're acting up.
Yeah, the microphones were saying we're done. We're done for the night. Episode's over. Episode's starting to take longer than the movie. Time to finish it up. So. And Elizabeth has is now swinging a Twizzler around and watching it bend, and the
kind of like a cat with some yarn.
Yeah.
She's like playing with her food, toying with it so that it realizes the imminence of its own demise before she then eats it.
Well, it's the
kind of like a mouse with a cat.
Well, it's swinging it up and down, so it creates that strobe effect. What's the word for that?
It just kind of looks like you're jerking off like a very skinny dog penis right now.
And on that note, I think the show has just ended.
All right, until next week.
This has been Anomaly Questionable Movies.
Yeah, and this has been Dan, and next week you'll get to know if the Twizzler stayed upright of its own accord.
Yeah. All right. Well, take care, everyone.
Later, folks.